Hello, welcome to J Lowe Artist YouTube channel. Today we'll be doing some drawing with graphite. So get out your pencils, your cotton swab, kneaded eraser, anything that you think you need to draw with. Have it right handy. And let's draw together. Remember, art makes life better. Thanks for coming along with me today, and thanks for being here. And we're going to draw this lion head. Simple shapes, what do you see? So if you look at his head, so from his jowls, his chin, all the way up through here, there's a light bulb right there. So that's the first thing we're going to do is draw that little light bulb shape, because that's going to establish our size. You want it pretty close to the edge, but not too close. So I'm going to kind of come out here and just do this little, I want to leave myself enough room for hair. And you can make it whatever size you want, but word to the wise, make it a little bit larger. We talked about this last time, making it kind of a little bit larger. So there's the little light bulb shape. I'll try and draw a little heavier so you can see it. Usually I draw very, very, very light to begin with. And that may not be perfect. You can adjust it. You know, remember to draw it right and then adjust. So if it's not big enough, make it big enough. If it's too big, make it a little smaller. And then take your kneaded eraser and just pull out what isn't quite right. So that's our first shape. Then just off to that little edge over there is an ear. And it's kind of about right in the middle of this rounded area. If this is a round circle here, it's about right in the middle. You come off here, there's an ear. And mine's gonna almost touch the edge of my page. Now there's the mane that goes around here too, and you can just block that in. You can say, well, kind of right off the top of this, there's a little split right there, and I'm just going to take that and I'm just going to put some hair in there. Comes off to his chin about right in there. So here's that other, notice I'm not doing a line around there because that hair is fuzzy and it's soft. And so you just do these little zigzaggy, shapes. Because it's soft and fuzzy, and it'll look soft and fuzzy. If you drew a line to show where that edge is, then that line sometimes doesn't go away. So I'm just going to zigzag through that. There's a little hair coming off this way too. I'm going to just kind of throw that up in there, and it goes off the page. Now that's the size that we want it. Okay, now we're ready to establish where the eyes, the nose goes, where's the teeth, how big is the mouth open. So I'm still looking at this circular shape there, and about right in the middle of that circular shape, about like this, is where the eyes are. And I can kind of figure out where the middle is by using my fingers like calipers. You guys know what calipers are? There's these little tools that they use to measure distances. And then also look at the direction that his eyes go. You know, they're not straight across, they're kind of at an angle. And you just kind of tilt your pencil until you're happy with that angle. And you just go, okay, that's my angle. So somewhere up in here, there's got to be an eye over here and an eye over here somewhere. Is that too big? Possibly. I can make it a little bit smaller. But then part of that eye is cut off. You know, because there's an eyelid that goes over it and kind of cut it off. This one's definitely too big. And part of this has a nose that kind of covers up over it. A little nose over there. So again, draw it the right size you think it should be, and then take your eraser and just pull out what isn't right. Well, if you come straight down off of that outside eye, you look at that outside eye and you come straight down off of that, that's about where that nose goes. And it's just kind of a curved triangular shape. It comes straight down off of here. It's about right in there somewhere. And again, just block it in. And you can look at it and say, oh, it's too big or too small or over too far or whatever. You can change it. It can all be changed. Too often, I think we draw something and then we feel like we're stuck because that's the way we drew it to begin with. If you look at this jowl, so if you go from his eye to the edge of his nose over here, and down to his jowl, there's another triangle that's going on right in there. This kind of triangle right there. And again, draw with the side of your pencil, very light, very thin. Now all I did is I went from this eye, from the bottom of this eye here, I did this little curve out like this. That's his outside jowl, the left jowl. His right jowl, our left side. And in doing this, we've just established where the top of the mouth goes. And we can say, oh, there's a tooth right there. Just make this little triangle for his tooth. We'll curve it and do it a little bit different. And there's a bunch of teeth in the middle. There's 2 little canine teeth, 4 tiny little teeth in the middle there, another canine, and then this other tooth in the triangle shape. And it's about right in the middle. Look at the jowl here, and that tooth is about right in the middle of it. So between the nose and the outside of the jowl, that tooth is right in the center. So there's our mouth. It just established the size of our mouth. That was easy. And we kind of see the curve that kind of follows our light bulb down around. You gotta might adjust it a little bit. But then these other teeth are foreshortened. Foreshortening means that it's going away from you or toward you. And so look at that. Look at this tooth right here. It's a circle. It's just a little circle. You know it's pointy because of where the light hits that tip of that tooth. And we'll get that when we shade it. But that foreshortening makes it look like it's kind of coming toward you. So if you come straight down off of that upper tooth there, come straight down off of that, that's where that other tooth is. You can just make a little circle. There's that other tooth. And a couple little teeth in between. And then there's another one that's just a little triangle coming out the other way. I want to adjust that a little bit. There's a couple things that I need to adjust here. This jowl is too big. So as I adjust this jowl, then what happens is I got to adjust that tooth on the top. When I adjust that tooth on the top, then I have to adjust this jowl over here. When I adjust that, then I have to adjust the eye over here. But that's okay, because now I've got much better proportions. So I drew it right. Now I erased what wasn't as right. On this other side, you've got this kind of oval that comes down. There's his tongue, his pink tongue that's coming right off of just on the outside of that little outside tooth. It kind of comes out, curves down, touches those little teeth at the bottom. He's got a few cavities, needs to go to the dentist. I keep adjusting. And that's what you want to do in this stage of your drawing. It's just adjust. Because too often we start drawing those details and the fun parts. And then we get to the part where we look at it and go, oh, that's in the wrong place. And then you have to change it. And then it's too hard to change. And then you hate it. So now what I'm going to do with the side of my pencil, and this little shape that I had over here, this little light bulb shape, it kind of dissipates, kind of gets lost in the hair and the mane and whatever. I'm going to get rid of it here because I don't want that shape around there. If I start drawing and that line kind of hangs out there. But now what I'm going to do is like pick out some of those little dark areas, like right in the middle of his head. There's this little dark where the hair kind of comes together. It's kind of dark there. And there's some darkness up in his mane. I want to pick that out. And a little bit over his ear. And I'm just using the side of my pencil and just scribbling that in. Notice how far back I am too. I'm clear back at the back. If the closer you get to the point, the harder you draw, the more you grind into it. There are times when I'll put my finger on the tip and really grind it in. But right now I don't want to do that. I'm still not quite convinced that everything is exactly where it needs to go. So I'm just going to lightly draw things in. Later on, we'll get to that point where we really throw in some contrast and make it dark. Right now, keep it nice and light. Any place that there's a little darkness, go ahead and throw that in. Even in the mane, as you see some of this darkness kind of happening in the mane, don't be afraid to just scribble in a little bit of darkness. And you don't have to be exact. Try to get it kind of where it goes. But we can change it. Everything that we do here with this style of drawing can be erased. It can be changed. So I'm going to just pick out some of those little areas that are darker in the mane. I'm just, when I use my pencil to do a little stroke, that feathered line that we talked about last time, where I kind of drop it in and then flip it, I'm trying to go in the direction that the hair is going, so that when I start blending it, it'll end up looking like fur, like his mane. Even these little wrinkles that are around his nose have a lot of darkness in them, and you can throw that in. And if you want to, with the side of your pencil, you can even throw in some of those little areas where the wrinkles are. One thing you don't want to do is use a line to denote those wrinkles, because those wrinkles are just folds, and they're just little dark areas. If you use line, it ends up looking like a crease or a crevice, and it doesn't look soft and fuzzy. I don't know if you've ever petted a lion's nose. They're very soft. Lions' tongues, however, are super abrasive. They could lift your face right off just by licking you. So that's all I did. It's just a few little wrinkles there. And if they're not in the right spot, which mine really, I need to adjust them a little bit. They're close. And maybe that's all you need is close. And as long as you're happy with it, that's what's important. Because ultimately, you're doing this drawing for yourself. Here's his dark jowls. His, I don't know what you call them. Lips. They're very dark. I'm putting those in with just little circular shapes. Okay, you don't want to do a hard line around anything yet. There might be places we need it, but we can always do that last. When you're doing fuzzy creatures, you don't want a hard line around things. Unless it's a design, unless you're doing a hard edge design. But you're doing a drawing like this, there's even little wrinkles in his tongue I'm going to throw in, especially right down the center. There's that main wrinkle. There's other little wrinkles in there too. Sometimes they're a little hard to see, so you just draw what you can see. And sometimes you have no idea what it is you're drawing. You're just like, well, it looks dark, I'm going to draw that dark. I was doing a drawing 2 years ago of a girl, and there was something in her hair, and I didn't know what it was. And when I was all done, it's like, oh, she's got these huge earrings, and they were kind of stuck in her hair. I didn't realize that until I was done drawing, and then I'm like, oh, I know what that is. What's our emphasis? Where does your eye rest? Where does it go? I mean, when you look at this photograph, what stands out to you? What is something that you just go, I'm going to make that nice and stand out? Anything stand out to you? I think oftentimes we look in the eye. The eye becomes very important. When you're drawing, especially if your scrap is on the computer, and you're drawing only black and white, but yet your picture is color, what do? Because you have to translate now color into value, into dark and light. So one of the easiest things to do is just get rid of the color. You can change it to grayscale. In this one, I just click color and I take out all the saturation, which means you're taking out all the color. Look how much that helped us. Now we can go into it and go, oh, I see those darks and light. Even that pink tongue, which was so pink against all that orange, is now just a value, lightness and darkness. So that'll help us when we're getting the values. Just take your cotton swab and go to the darkest area you've got there. And for me, it would be the jowls and maybe the nose. I'm gonna just go in and pick up some of that darkness with my cotton swab and just kind of blend around, make sure it's nice and soft. And once you pick up enough graphite, you can start drawing with that cotton swab. So like his tongue is very gray right up in there. I'm just going to go ahead and use that cotton swab and pick up some of that grayness that's in his tongue. I'm going to avoid that tooth because it's pretty bright, pretty light. That kind of pushes his tongue back into his face, back into his mouth. Light things tend to come forward, dark things tend to go back. So now I'm taking my cotton swab and I can draw with my cotton swab. Any of those really light areas, I can go in there with this cotton swab and pull that out. So those edges are soft and light. And if you don't need them that soft and light, we can always add more. We can always go back into it. But see how those wrinkles now change? They look more like wrinkles than crevices, than creases. And those soft areas, I mean, we're going to go back in with our 6B and really soften some of that stuff and darken it up as well. But when you're drawing soft, fuzzy creatures, those edges become very, very important. Most of his, there's some color up in here, and nothing up there is white. So you can go back into with your cotton swab and just kind of go over everything. Don't press too hard because then you get it streaky. But if you're soft, you can put a basic gray over everything, because nothing in there is white. It's all light gray. Same thing with this fur. And you should be able to see that kind of ghost-like image of your lion. He's not real dark, he's not real powerful yet, but he will be. And at this point too, you look at it and you go, okay, is there anything I need to change? Because if there is, now's the time to do it. Once we get that 6B out and grind that into the surface, it's too late. Actually, you can still change it then, but it's not as easy. The further you get away from the face, the more free, sketchy, spontaneous you can be. So while I've got my cotton swab here, I'm just going to put some value into those eyes, even though that might be too much. And one thing that you do want to do is take that shine in your eye and make it white. I'm going to zoom into it like this. I'm just going to take my kneaded eraser and I'm going to touch some of those little shiny spots. And just those little touches will really make that eye look more alive. And what's really going to help that eye is contrast. I want it to go really dark. So I've got my 6B. I'm going to start with the really dark section of his eyes, and usually it's in the corners and around the eyes. So and you want to make sure his eyes are nice and round, especially the bottom part. The top part is kind of covered up by this eyelid. You can see a little bit of his pupil right there. So you do that little Pac-Man shape because there's a shine that goes over it. You just darken that edge, make sure the bottom edge is nice and round. Animals have very rounded eyes. There's an eyelid that's in there, and even though I can't see it, I know it's there. So I'm just going to leave a little bit of an edge on that eyelid. Knowing it's there. And with the very soft tip of my pencil, we put in that little bit of that darkness right below that shine. And that's going to make that eye look more alive. And that's our emphasis area. That's what we're looking at. That's what we really want to emphasize. Now I can't get rid of that eye. It's there forever. That's okay, because I think it should be. I think it's positioned right. And now I'm just going to take my pencil and just anything that's really dark, I'm going to go in there. There's a little dark crease under his eye. Throw that in. And if it comes out into his fur, he'll use tiny little feathered lines. You just gotta fleck them. See what difference that made in that eye? That's what your contrast will do for you. I'm gonna do the other eye while I'm here. Might as well do it. Start with that upper eyelid. Little zigzaggy shapes. You can use little dots and dashes, whatever you feel like you need to make that texture or that darkness happen. I think oftentimes there's no perfect way of drawing, but there are better ways than others. So what I'm trying to teach you is just one good way to do it, and I think eventually you'll figure this out. You'll get your own voice. You'll figure it out. So I could blend those eyes a little bit more, but for right now I'm just going to keep it like that. I like that contrast. And there's a little dark under his eye. Dots and dashes, whatever you feel like you need to do, because it's furry, and you're going to get little dots and dashes in the fur as well. And if you want to, you can do like we did with the feathers. You put a little darkness in there and then just take your cotton swab, do a little bit of blending, and you got it. Last thing is take your kneaded eraser, pull out anything that's really bright and light, little light edge there. Just gonna pull out just a couple of those things, a little bit of light on the bottom of his eye like we did with the bird, and the shine in the eye. Voila, you got a nice, classy, realistic looking eye. And it works every time. You got to go back in and put more contrast in there because I took it out when I blended it. Now I'm going to work down to his nose. So I'm going to go back in and little zigzags where the little folds were. You don't need them everywhere, just here and there. Don't do a line. I know a line is faster, but it's bad texture for this. It works for some things, but for this lion, not gonna work. So little zigzags. I've often been told, gosh, it looks like you're just scribbling. I am. Just scribbling. But you're scribbling with purpose. Kind of like how Buzz Lightyear flies. He flies, he's falling with style. He's scribbling with style. And then you can go back into it, just like we did with the bird and his wings. Blend them a little bit, smear them around. Use your kneaded eraser. Whatever you feel like you need to. Just soften those edges. When lions get scars on their face, their scars turn black. So sometimes some of these little black things that you see on his face are scars. He was in a fight or whatever happens. So his nose isn't perfectly triangular, and as you start detailing it, start putting things in there, you start noticing all those little subtle things that happen. You're not thinking nose, you're just thinking darks and lights. Just a series of dark and light. And think simple shapes too. Keep it kind of simple. So once you get that part done, you can maybe start scribbling around some of those dark areas that are really dark and you're really not sure what's going on with them. You just scribble them in. It's like his jowls here. Just scribble those in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Gotta make sure he's got enough teeth there. So I don't know if you saw this, but I switched to a different pencil. This one is not as sharp as the other pencil, and it's got a kind of a blunted end, and so I'm going to use this until it's really blunt, and then I'll sharpen it. I like to keep that other sharp pencil for when I need that little edge. And it's not so much the value as it is the edges of value that cause your texture. So, for example, this little jowl has kind of a hard edge in there, so I can use my line to create that hard edge, but right next to it is some very soft fuzzy fur, and it's even dark in there, and so I want to use my line to create that soft fuzzy fur. So it's the edges that are important here. So this little edge right here gets your fur. This gets your soft jowl. And you can do circles, you can do lines. It's not important. What's important is your edge. So where the fur comes out, just have some little lines coming away from the edge. That'll soften it up. Like anything, you can take this as far as you want it to go. You want more detail to it, you just got to keep drawing. Little spots on his jowls where his little whiskers go. It's important that they line up with the other side because they're symmetrical. So you can kind of come around and go, okay, this is where these kind of start. Actually not symmetrical, they're more asymmetrical, but they line up with each other. Now you should be getting plenty of graphite on on your drawing for you to blend with. I'm going to use the side of my pencil because nobody cares about the mane. It is a distinguishing feature. It needs to be there, but if you've got it a little bigger, a little smaller, that's no big deal. People care about the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. You know, you put those in the wrong place, everybody knows it. They'll tell you about it. Remember, when you're using the side of your pencil, that keeps your edges soft and fuzzy. So automatically you're doing that. The last thing you're going to do, take your kneaded eraser, just pull out any lights that you need, keeping that contrast, darks and lights. I've got so much graphite on my cotton swab now, I can use that to get some of those little soft fuzzy areas. What do you do when you have white whiskers? How do you get those white whiskers? I'm going to just try this kneaded eraser and see if it works. Pinch it down to a knife blade and you just draw it across there. That's pretty close. That'll work. So what's the last thing you do to this? You sign it, right? You put your name on it. That's your copyright. Proves that you did it.